Oh man, I am so sorry I didn't see you.
Goodness, are you all right?
Evening. Everyone all right here?
Evening, officer. Yes, we're fine. Just an accident.
Copy that. Have a safe night.
We're fine. Thanks for your diligence.
Richard Hayes had no idea what he just walked into. In the next 72 hours, his career would end. His name would be all over the news, and the man he just insulted would be sitting in his chair. The simple operations worker, Richard dismissed, had an MBA from Wharton. He had saved the company $14 million. The board had been trying to make him an executive for 3 years. And 17 employees in that room, they saw everything. They would write 32 pages of statements. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Drop your answer in the comments. Richard Hayes had no idea who he just insulted. Let me tell you about David Carter. David was the senior operations manager at Hartwell Industries. This company was based in Atlanta, Georgia. David had worked there for 10 years. He started at the bottom. He worked his way up through hard work alone. Here is the part that makes this story so good. David had an MBA from Wharton. That is one of the best business schools in the country. He changed the way the company moved products. His ideas saved them $14.2 million in 3 years. He brought in 3 of their biggest clients. The board of directors loved him. They had been asking him to take bigger jobs for years. David always said no. He liked hands-on work. He liked helping his team. David grew up in South Atlanta. His mom raised 3 kids by herself. David was the first person in his family to finish college. He never bragged about anything. He just worked hard and helped others. But here's what really matters. David had every board member's email address. He could reach them directly. Richard Hayes did not even have that yet. On that Monday morning, David was just trying to welcome his new boss. He had no idea he was about to become famous. Now let me tell you about Richard Hayes. This man came to Hartwell Industries with a history, but it was not the kind you put on a resume. Richard was 54 years old. He had just been hired as Chief Operations Officer. His salary was $340,000 a year plus stock options. He had worked at the company for only 2 weeks. Here is the thing about Richard. He had worked at 3 different companies in 8 years. Every time he left, things were quiet, too quiet. There were always secrets. At his last company, 2 employees filed complaints against him. Both cases were settled with money. Both employees signed papers saying they would never talk about what happened. At another company, someone said he created a hostile work environment. That person also signed papers to stay quiet. When Hartwell checked his references, people gave strange answers. They were careful with their words. Nobody said anything bad, but nobody said anything good either. Richard had already caused problems at Hartwell. In his first week, he called an assistant the help when he wanted coffee. She reported it to HR. Type red flag in the comments if you saw this coming. People like Richard often get away with this behavior for years. They move from company to company. They hide behind settlements and silence. But this time would be different, because David Carter was not someone who could be silenced. The date was Monday, March 11th, 2024. The time was 9:15 in the morning. Hartwell Industries had its main office in the Buckhead area of Atlanta. The operations team met in a conference room on the 3rd floor. The room had glass walls. You could see the whole office from inside. This was a normal Monday meeting. Coffee sat on a table in the corner. Morning sun came through the big windows. People opened their laptops and made small talk. 17 members of the operations team were there. 3 department heads sat at the table. An HR worker was there to take notes. This was normal for when a new boss joins. Richard Hayes walked in 5 minutes early. He wore an expensive suit with gold cufflinks. He walked with confidence. He seemed eager to show he was in charge. Richard started at the head of the table. He worked his way around. Firm handshake, eye contact. Good to meet you. He said the same thing to everyone. David sat in the middle of the table. He was next to his friend Marcus Williams. David wore a nice shirt with no tie. He waited for his turn to meet the new boss. Richard got closer. He shook Marcus's hand. Marcus is white. Then Richard turned toward David. His hand dropped to his side. If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button right now. The room went quiet. Someone's coffee cup stopped halfway to their mouth. David spoke first. "Sir, I just wanted to introduce myself properly." Richard stared at him, cold. "I don't shake hands with your kind." David could not believe what he heard. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." Richard shrugged. "Nothing personal, just how I was raised. Now get back to whatever it is you do here." David tried again. "Sir, I'm the senior operations man. I've been with this company for 10 years. Richard barely looked at him. 10 years pushing papers, impressive." David stayed calm. "I think there might be some misunderstanding about my role here." Richard was already turning away. "I don't think there is. I know exactly who you are." David did not back down. "What exactly does that mean?" Richard looked over his shoulder. His voice was casual, like he was talking about the weather. "It means I know your type. Diversity hire, checked a box. We'll see how long that lasts under real leadership." Nobody moved. 17 people sat frozen in their seats. Someone dropped a pen. Nobody picked it up. The HR worker's eyes went wide. Her hand moved toward her phone. Marcus leaned over and whispered to David, "Did he just say that?" 3 department heads stared in shock. A young worker named Priya was already texting under the table. The assistant stopped typing. He quietly started recording on his phone. Richard kept walking around the room. He acted like nothing happened. The meeting went on, but everything had changed. After the meeting, Richard left first. He did not look back. David stayed in his seat. He was still processing what happened. 3 co-workers came up to him. "David, are you okay?" one asked. "That was wrong," said another. "We all saw that." The HR worker approached. "David, can we talk privately? Let me know in the comments, what would you have done in David's shoes?" That same day at 11 a.m., David sat down with the HR director. Her name was Sandra Mitchell. "David, I want you to know this is being taken seriously," Sandra said. She started the paperwork. She scheduled interviews with witnesses. She told David they would have an update in 2 weeks. But here is what happened next. 2 weeks felt too long. Richard kept coming to work. He kept giving orders. He kept attending meetings. Nothing changed for him. Other employees started talking. They told David about more comments Richard made. Jennifer Walsh, a department head, came to David. "He called Maria the cleaning lady," she said. "Maria is a project manager." By day 4, David made a decision. He wrote an email to the board of directors. This was not angry. This was not rushed. David was careful. He wrote down every fact. He listed every witness. He explained exactly what happened and what it meant. Then he attached something important. His own work file, 10 years of reviews, $14.2 million in savings, 3 major clients he brought to the company, awards, praise, results. The subject line was simple: formal report of discriminatory conduct. Now here is where things moved fast. The board read his email. They saw his track record. This was not some unhappy worker complaining. This was their most valuable operations person. Within 24 hours, the board called an emergency meeting. The chairman herself, Margaret Chen, called David. "We received your email," she said. "We are acting immediately." The board demanded a full HR report in 48 hours. Then the witness statements poured in. Marcus Williams wrote his statement. He deliberately skipped David. It was on purpose. Everyone saw it. Jennifer Walsh added hers. "I've worked here 15 years. I've never seen anything like it. It was degrading." Priya Sharma wrote about her reaction. He said, "You're kind. In 2024, I was shaking." The HR worker, Linda Torres, gave her statement. "I was in that room to document the introduction. I documented exactly what happened." Then came the biggest piece of proof. The executive assistant, Michael Chen, had recorded audio on his phone. Georgia law allows this. One person can record a conversation they are part of. The evidence kept growing. 17 written statements, 1 audio recording, security footage, calendar invites proving who was there, 3 more complaints from other employees. HR called Richard in for an interview on day 5. He denied everything at first. "I don't recall saying anything inappropriate," he said. They played the audio recording. His face changed. "That's taken out of context," he said. They showed him the witness count, 17 people. "These people are obviously working together against me," Richard said. His final words in that meeting, "This is a witch hunt. I'll be speaking to my attorney." Type karma in the comments if you think Richard was about to get what he deserved. By day 5, Richard Hayes was starting to understand his mistake. He thought he was dealing with someone powerless. He was actually dealing with the most connected person in the building. On day 6, the full board met. This was rare. They had not called an emergency meeting in 2 years. Chairman Margaret Chen led the meeting. HR presented their report. It was 32 pages long. Company lawyers sat in the room. They warned about what could happen if they did nothing. The findings were clear. Discrimination happened in front of 17 witnesses. Audio proof confirmed the exact words. A pattern existed. 3 more complaints in just 6 days of work. They found out about his past, 2 settlements at his old job, hidden for years. Richard's defense fell apart piece by piece. He said he was misheard. The audio proved his exact words. He said it was a joke. 17 witnesses said he was serious. Nobody laughed. He said David was making things up for attention. David's work file showed 10 years of quiet excellence. He had never filed a single complaint before. He said everyone was working against him. The witnesses came from 4 different departments. Most barely knew each other. On day 7, the board voted. It was unanimous. Every single member agreed. Richard Hayes was fired immediately. No goodbye package, no extra money. His stock options were cancelled. Security would walk him out. The moment came on Friday, March 18th, at 3 p.m. Richard was called to HR. Security guards waited outside the door. His personal items were already in boxes. His badge was turned off. By 3:45 p.m., he was out of the building. Total time at the company, 22 days. Richard could not believe it. "You can't do this. I have a contract," he said. "This company will hear from my lawyers," he threatened. "I demand to speak to the board directly," he insisted. His last words as he left, "You're all making a huge mistake." But the company was not done. They sent an email to everyone. Chairman Chen wrote it herself. "We do not tolerate discrimination, ever." David got a standing ovation when he walked into work on Monday. Co-workers clapped. Some had tears in their eyes. But wait, there's more to this story. The board had been watching David for 3 years. They were waiting for the right moment, and that moment had just arrived. If you want to see what happens next, make sure you're subscribed. 10 minutes later, the calls started coming. 8 months after Richard was fired, someone told a reporter. The Atlanta Business Chronicle published the story first. The headline read, "Local CEO's Rise Followed Executive's Racist Incident." By the next morning, everything exploded. By 9 a.m., the article was online. By noon, 50,000 people had read it. LinkedIn was on fire. By 3 p.m., CNN Business picked it up. By 6 p.m., it was a national story. By midnight, 2.3 million people had seen it across all platforms. The numbers kept climbing. LinkedIn showed 180,000 likes, comments, and shares. On Twitter, the hashtag #JusticeForDavid trended for 36 hours. Business leaders on Instagram shared the story. TikTok exploded with reaction videos. People had strong opinions. One person wrote, "This is how companies should respond, 0 tolerance." Another said, "From your kind to CEO, that's poetic justice." Someone else posted, "Every executive needs to read this story." Major outlets wanted interviews. CNN Business talked to David. Forbes wrote a feature called "The CEO Who Turned Discrimination into Transformation." Harvard Business Review turned it into a case study. What happened to Richard? He tried to control the story. He failed. He deleted his LinkedIn profile. He made no public statement. People in his industry said he was unhireable. Nobody would touch him. Share this video if you think more people need to see this story. But I have not told you about David's promotion yet. Let me go back. After Richard was fired, Chairman Margaret Chen called David. "The board has been discussing your future," she said. David was invited to a board meeting. He walked into the same conference room where everything started. The full board was there. The CEO was there. David, we've been watching your work for years, the chairman said. We'd like to offer you the interim COO position. David was shocked. I need to think about this, he said. Take the weekend, the chairman replied. But David, you've earned this 10 times over. David talked to his family, he talked to mentors, he talked to co-workers he trusted. On Monday, he said yes. But he had one condition. I want to build a company where what happened to me can never happen to anyone else. Now here is the part you have been waiting for. How did David do? In his first 6 months, David saved another $3.2 million through new partnerships. Employee happiness scores went up by 23%. He started programs for diversity and inclusion. He personally mentored 12 employees from backgrounds like his. The second quarter results came in, best quarter in company history. 7 months later, the board voted again. They removed the word interim from his title. David Carter was officially named CEO of Hartwell Industries. He was the youngest CEO ever. He was the first black CEO in the company's 40-year history. His first act as CEO was a company-wide meeting. He stood in front of everyone and spoke. I'm not here because of what happened in March. I'm here because of what happened in the 10 years before that, but I promise you this, what happened in March will never happen again, not to anyone, not here. The man who was called a diversity hire now ran the entire company. 3 months into his new role, David sat down with CNN Business. He finally spoke about how it all affected him. That moment in the conference room hurt, David said. I won't pretend it didn't. He talked about going home that night. His wife asked if he was okay. He did not have an answer. My son asked me why someone would do that, David said. He's 12. I didn't know what to tell him. David shared what he learned. I spent 10 years proving my value through work. I thought that was enough. What I learned is that some people will never see your work. They'll only see their assumptions. Then his voice grew stronger. But I also learned that most people see the truth. Those 17 people in that room, they saw the truth. David had a message for other workers. If you're facing discrimination, document everything, find allies, speak up. I know it's scary. I know the system often fails, but silence guarantees nothing changes. He had words for leaders too. Who you hire matters, who you believe matters more. His final statement became famous. He called me a diversity hire. He meant it as an insult. But you know what? Diversity is why I'm sitting in this chair today. That's not a box to check. That's how you build something that lasts. This story ended well. Most stories like this do not. In 2023, workers filed over 67,000 discrimination complaints. Black employees are 30% more likely to quit because of unfair treatment. Only 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs are black. David Carter had everything going for him. Credentials, track record, connections. He still almost lost. What about the employee who does not have an MBA from Wharton? What about someone without board member email addresses? That is the real question this story asks. So let me ask you, do we want to live in a world where you need a degree from Wharton just to be believed? Do we want a system where 17 witnesses and audio proof are required to fire one racist boss? Do we want companies where people like Richard Hayes keep moving up until someone finally stops them? Because if we do not fix how companies hire, if we do not change how complaints are handled, if we do not protect the people who speak up, then we are just waiting for the next Richard Hayes, the next David Carter, the next conference room where someone's dignity is taken away. Comment below if you believe companies should check references more carefully. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button right now. We are going to keep exposing these patterns. We are going to keep demanding better. We are going to keep fighting for workplaces where your work matters more than how you look. Richard Hayes thought he knew exactly who David Carter was. He was wrong, and that mistake cost him everything. But this is not just about one racist boss or one remarkable employee. This is about all of us. It is about who we allow to have power, and it is about what we are going to do about it. See you in the next one.